In 1973, the world was shocked and horrified by the supernatural horror film The Exorcist. One of the highest grossing horror films of all time, the movie has had a major impact on pop culture, and even scored itself 10 Oscar nominations. But perhaps the scariest thing about The Exorcist are the true tales that inspired the movie and the novel from which it was adapted by William Peter Blatty. Since real-life stories have surfaced in the media about real exorcisms, and they've haunted the mainstream for years, they're no easy subject to digest. So today we're taking a closer look into these terrifying tales with our list of the top 5 scariest real-life exorcisms. And be warned guys, some of this stuff is pretty unsettling and disturbing. Starting us off in at number 5, Anna Uckland. In 1912, a 14-year-old girl named Anna Uckland began acting strangely. She would speak in tongues, disturbing voices would emit from her throat, and she would be repulsed by religious iconography and spaces. A priest was brought in to conduct an exorcism, which was initially thought to be successful. But in 1928, Anna's conditions began to reoccur and worsen. She would commit terrible acts, claiming that she was plagued by voices of demons. They conducted another series of exorcisms, binding her to an iron bed, but on one occasion she ripped through her restraints, jumped into the air, and allegedly clung to the wall above. She had to be dragged down by nuns, howling and crying. Then began the vomiting, which according to reports contained tobacco leaves and other debris. Her body swelled, she became disfigured, and her eyes apparently began to glow red like embers. Eventually the demons were exorcised according to reports, and Time magazine even did a profile on the priest who did the exorcism in 1936, a fellow named Father Theophilus Resinger, calling him a potent and mystic exorcist of demons. Moving on to number 4, Michael Taylor. In 1974, a man named Michael Taylor made headlines for an event referred to as the Ossett murder case. Taylor, who lived in Ossett in England, was a butcher and was married to a woman named Christine. He began feeling what he described as evil within him, and at a meeting at a Christian fellowship group that he belonged to, he viciously attacked the meeting's facilitator. Every meeting afterwards, despite being apologetic, his behavior grew more erratic. And finally, the group believed that the only way to rid him of this was to call upon a local priest and cast the demons out of him via exorcism. On October 5th and 6th of 1974, the exorcism was conducted, and according to witnesses, 40 demons were cast out of Taylor. Eventually, he was allowed to go home, even though they believed he still had a few demons remaining inside of him. Big mistake, because Taylor would go home and murder his wife Christine with his bare hands, tearing out her tongue and eyes, as well as strangling their dog to death. A policeman would later find him naked on the street covered in their blood. He would later be acquitted for his charge of murder and sent to a high-security psychiatric facility, which he would be released from 4 years later. In 2005, he once again made headlines after inappropriately touching a teenage girl, and leading up to his prison sentence, he attempted suicide 4 times. He was sentenced to psychiatric treatment as a result. And at number 3, the Smurl family. The Smurl family may ring a bell to those of you who are fans of the Conjuring film series. It's one of the real-life cases that the famous demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren had investigated in the 70s. This family claimed that they were being haunted by ghosts, plagued by demonic activity in their home, and that the home itself was possessed. Ed and Lorraine visited them and noted that a very powerful demon was present in the home. This led to the couple attempting several exorcisms to be rid of the dark shadow that lurked throughout the building. While the exorcisms were unsuccessful, the haunting would eventually cease by 1987, which only furthered the ridicule that the family had already received from the media about the whole thing just being an elaborate hoax. And at number 2, Anneliese Mitchell. Remember the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose? Personally, out of all the exorcism movies, that's the one that freaked me out the most. It features the protagonist of the movie, Emily, being possessed, waking up at the hour of the devil, and going through some pretty horrific stuff. Turns out that the movie was inspired by a real-life exorcism of a young woman named Anneliese Mitchell. Mitchell was a young German woman who'd struggled with mental illness, and as her symptoms intensified over the years, she began showing an aversion to religious iconography. Her family, being Catholic, believed that this was because of demonic possession, and when she was only 22, she was subjected to 10 whole months of exorcism rites, which included just under 70 exorcism attempts inside of a church. She eventually died, with the cause of her death officially being malnutrition and starvation. The priest and her family were criminally charged with negligent homicide and manslaughter. Finally, in at number 1, Roland Doe. We mentioned earlier in our intro that the Exorcist film was inspired by a novel of the same name. That book came out in 1971 and was inspired by a true case, demonic possession and exorcism that the author, William Peter Blatty, had heard about in 1950 while attending Georgetown University. It was based on the accounts of a British archaeologist, the same one that excavated the caves in which the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. As the story goes, the possessed individual was a young 14-year-old boy from Cottage City, Maryland. It occurred in 1949. He's often referred to as Robbie Manham, or Roland Doe. 48 people were said to have witnessed the exorcism, with 9 of those being Jesuits. The family of the boy reports hearing strange noises and seeing ordinary objects levitate when he was nearby, so they called upon their local pastor. When the boy was observed overnight, he had to be restrained, which then eventually led to the exorcism attempts. During one attempt, he managed to slip one of his hands out of his restraints and slash the priest's arm. Marks of the devil allegedly appeared on the boy's body during the exorcism, with him even scratching other marks into his own skin that read Hell and Christ. His mattress would also shake. The accounts of the exorcism are what Blatty would later adapt into his novel, much of which made it into the film itself. It was later noted in 2013 by one of the eyewitnesses that there was no attainable proof that the boy was actually possessed by nefarious spirits, but that they were unqualified to give confirmation of the whole event on the record. Alright, there we have it, friends. Pretty eerie stuff. Which of these exorcisms made you cringe the most? And what other real-life exorcism stories have you guys heard about before? Let us know in those comments below. If you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more creepy content. We even have a nifty little playlist currently flashing on your screen right now. In the meantime though, thanks for watching everybody. I'll catch you all in the next video.